Yes, I would agree, very much so. So as you look at your 3 E's, tell us, part of the environment is our ongoing water crisis. At least I think it's a water crisis in this state. Our aquifer keeps dropping in levels. Our rivers keep dropping in levels. What do you think about that?
Well, water, the preservation of our natural resources is a huge cornerstone to all ways of thinking in the environment. A lot of my focus is a lot on the wind power and some of the ways in getting us off the energy money flowing out of the state. But yes, we do have to preserve the water here. Some things we do is we need to prevent the water from being sold to other states, that proposal that was out there. And quite bluntly, we have a lot. If you drive west and if you've lived in the state all your life, you know when we used to get to the sand hills and what I refer to as marginal land, which really wasn't meant for crop rearing and was meant for other things, cattle raising and other things like that, they didn't have the soil busted. Now you go to the west and you see irrigations on land that is just marginal. And as soon as they stop irrigating those lands, it's going to go to decibel areas out there. It is just a problem that we're not properly managing the water and the resources. And we have to do a better job of allocating the water between the competitive things, which is agriculture has to be one, our food supply has to be one. But have you been out to the lakes in the western part of the state? They're virtually empty the last couple of years. And that's going to stop the water, hydro generation of electricity and other problems that we're going to have. It's all intertwined, and we have to do a much better job of thinking through these things for the preservation. And it takes someone like a mediator, a person who actually has skills at listening to everybody with their different points of view to come up with a resolution to these things. I'm going to take a moment to switch to getting us off other people's energy. We're the 6th best in the whole country for wind generation. It's absurd that we're not the 6th best in getting our windmill generators up. We absolutely should and can do it. We have public power. We have something virtually no other place in the country has. In fact, Fremont has public gas and electric, which is a little unusual. And so we don't have to wait for corporations to tell us that it's time to go to wind generation. We can do it now. And I remember back when I was very, very young. I was 16. I built the solar heater for my parents' home during the 70s energy crisis. And our current home has solar energy, but that's the active one. And the office we have is passive solar heat. We need to look to alternative renewable energy sources, wind, solar, and we can build green. All we have to do is say we want to build homes and offices that are green. They can be without fuel coming and paid for from other places. Just by placing them right, using the current technology, yeah, it's a little bit more expensive when they do that, but when we compare it to the price of what we're pouring out of this state for energy, we can't afford to do this. Every time we fill up our tank, and we all had that painful moment these years going, oh my, they can't believe that it is actually that expensive at this point. We're handing money over to people who hate us, who are bent on destroying our lives and the way we think and our country in a whole. Why are we doing that? Why are we not saying enough is enough? Renewable, renewable, and we can do it. The technology is there. We can go for it and do that. But we do have to manage what we have, which, of course, is the water issues. And there's some land issues out west which are also interesting that we need to address.
Right now, we're seeing this just dramatic increase in the value of land, which I gather is being driven by corn values going up and ethanol and that whole thing. What do you think about that? Do you think that that's a sustainable model?
Well, the ethanol industry is and has given us the opportunity to increase corn prices for the first time in real numbers in 4 or 5 decades. I mean, if you've been around farming, as my grandfather's farming, if you've been around farming, there really hadn't been an increase in real dollars in the corn crop given to our farmers. And so we all got excited by the idea that it was going up until you started to hear from the feeders who then couldn't afford to feed their cows because we can't then compete with the other countries that don't use corn to feed. And so when you start to burn your food supply, it becomes a little bit problematic, and we have issues. We talked about water earlier. The water resources is tied to the ethanol plants because it takes a great deal of water to actually produce the ethanol, and it's actually impacting the water supplies of some of the areas that they're at. And so you just can't look at them one at a time. There are crops, and biofuels are a great idea. You look at Brazil, for heaven's sakes, Brazil is energy independent because they take sugar cane and make it into their fuel. Okay? They don't import, none at all. Can you imagine the economic impact in this state, in this country, not importing? But you have to be careful not to burn in your gas tank your food supply.
Sure.
And what happened here was, I don't know why we're not surprised, when the price went up, other people went out and then they started to buy up farmland, making the price of it more expensive, and so actually increasing the cost of production. And so essentially the marginal gain to the farmers is actually not as great as we'd like it to be. We have a lot of smiles this year when we had the crop harvested, but I had to say that we have to look more long-term for that, and there are things that our farmers can do. We can grow biofuel, but if we focus solely on something that's actually part of our food supply, it can actually be kind of dangerous.
Sure,